Hey guys, welcome to the September Make It box. I'm going to start by going through the supplies that are in your box. So you should have 3 pumpkins with 3 cutouts. So one for each of them. A brush, 1 big leaf, 2 smaller leaves. String, you should have 3 pieces of the string. And then 9 pieces of paper. And then some stain and some Mod Podge. So what we're going to be doing is Mod Podging the paper onto the pumpkins and attaching everything and making cute little shelf sitter pumpkins. So what you're going to start by doing is deciding which paper goes in which spot. So you should have stripe paper and then some orange. There's a couple different colors of orange. There's this orange and this orange, and then another kind of fun color. So this one is a little bit smaller, so that will go with my smaller pumpkin. So for this one, I'm going to do a stripe in the middle, an orange on the outside piece, and then I should have a blue, but I don't see one here. So I'm going to do another orange. So I'm going to do that for my big one. Actually, I have too many pieces for some reason. So them are the pieces I'm going to do for that one. And then I'll do the same thing for the smaller one. So I'll decide which ones I'm going to do. So basically, you just have to make sure that it fits inside of this cutout. So I'll do this stripe in the middle, and this orange on this far left side. So I'll do the same thing for my other small pumpkin. So now that I have that set, I'm going to grab these pieces and I'm going to go ahead and stain them. So that way they are dry. Actually, no, we're not going to do that because we don't want them to be wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece here. I'm going to flip this over. You wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but I don't want it to show. So using a pen or pencil, I'm just going to trace this. Since these are stripes, if you're really particular, I mean, you could go sideways or diagonal, sorry, like that, or straight up and down. And I actually think that the diagonal might be kind of fun. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to trace that here. Didn't quite catch that. And it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to cut kind of a little bit wider than this line anyways. So then I'll grab an orange. And actually, you want to make sure that you're tracing from the back side of the pumpkin if you're doing it on the white side. So check that. Yeah, that's not going to line up. So just make that really dark so I can tell. So I'm going to set that aside. There's that piece, and then we'll do the same for this orange. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing for my small pumpkins. So remember the back side. So that's my middle piece. And I'll do my two sides. All right, and then you can also do the same thing for your last pumpkin. I'm just going to do one small and one big to show you because the two small are the same, just to make the video a little bit shorter for you. So after that, I'm going to cut these out. So I'm just going to cut a little bit bigger than my outline. And I will show you why once we get them cut out. Okay. All right. So why we're doing that a little bit bigger is when we go to cover that up, we just have a little bit of extra room there. Somehow. It's because I have it backwards. So when we do go to glue them on, we just make sure that the edges are covered. So that's why. So I'm gonna cut out my pieces for my big pumpkin next. And these do not have to be perfect by any means because that top piece will cover them up. All right. So I'm going to set these pieces aside, and I'm going to grab my brush, these 3 pieces, and I'll need a little bit of water, and also my leaves. So again, I'm just going to do these 2. So you go ahead and do all of yours, but I'm just going to do the 2. So I'm going to dip my brush in the water and grab a little bit of stain here. And I'm just going to go ahead and stain these leaves and these pieces. And I'll just set them off to the side to dry. Make sure I'm doing the front. All right, so I will do my small one. All right, so if you want them a little bit darker, you can always go ahead and add a second coat. I kind of like how they look though. So I'm gonna let them dry. I'm gonna wash my brush out, and we will go ahead and move to the next step. Okay, so I have my pieces set aside, and now I'm going to grab these here, and what we're going to do is Mod Podge these on. So I'll probably start with I guess it doesn't really matter. You can kind of tell why we made them a little bit bigger. So if I grab that piece set it on there. Just want to make sure that everything will be covered when we put these pieces on. So what we'll do, kind of figure out where you want them. I'll just do one at a time, probably, so I can move them around a little bit. So I'm going to keep this piece handy. It dries really fast, so I can already touch it. But I want to make sure my brush is dried after I rinse it out. And this is the Mod Podge here. I also grabbed just an old gift card that I have sitting around. That's just to flatten out the Mod Podge. So I'm going to start by just grabbing a little bit of Mod Podge here and going just directly onto the wood. I'm just going to put like a nice thin coat on. All right, so then I'm going to grab this piece. It's kind of like glue, but you can move it around a little bit for just a little bit. You don't want to push it down a whole lot though. And it dries pretty quick, so if it gets too dry, you might have to add more. So that's pretty good there. I'm going to leave that one there. Just going to push it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the middle. So same thing, just not a whole lot. Just a nice thin coat. Looks good there, so I'm just going to press this down and make sure there aren't any little bubbles. Now, if there are bubbles, that's what this is for. So I'm just smoothing it out there. All right. And I'll do this last side. So I didn't check that one, but I cut that one a lot bigger, so All right, so that is how it's gonna look. All right, so then I'm just going to let that dry a little bit, work on my big one, and then we'll put a final coat on top and add our top to it. Looks fun. So if you notice any corners or anything kind of peeling up, you can add a little bit, but we are going to put a little coat on top, so it's should be fine. But I like to do this part first and let it kind of dry, so it just seems to hold up better that way. So let's do the same thing with our big piece. All right. All right, I got plenty of that covered. And let's check that. That's way off. Also way off. That's better there. All right, let's see. That's pretty good there. I think I accidentally cut a little bit too much off, but it'll be okay. But my Mod Podge is drying quite a bit, so I'm gonna try to hold it down. Add a little bit more. Alright. So same thing for the middle. I used to work with Mod Podge a lot, and I kind of, I don't know, took a little break from it, but I actually like it. I feel like you can do a lot of different things with it. You don't want to get too carried away because it'll make your paper all soggy. We don't want that. So I need to, let's see, I need to move over just a little bit down here. hopefully it's not too, I didn't check that. That's what you want to check. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but we're going to try. That's better. But since I peeled that up and it was pretty dry, I'm gonna have to work fast. If you wanted to, you could trace this. That would help you a little bit more of where you were going to place your piece at. All right, then so this is my last one. All right, here we go. Let's see if that was fast enough. Not quite. So again, I'm just gonna add a little bit to my brush. That should be fine there. All right, so I'm gonna let this one dry, and then you can go ahead and do your other small pumpkin. And then, see if you wanna pause the video, you can. And then we're gonna grab our other one that's dry, and we're gonna put this on there, this top on there. So, actually, I'm gonna put a top coat on this. So what I'm gonna do is just brush over this. This is just gonna give it a little bit of a gloss finish. It just will help it hold up a little bit and over time and help the paper stay on. So just a light coat over the top of your paper. You don't want to get a whole lot on because it will start to peel your paper up if you get too much on. So you can just kind of barely see that there. Getting a little bit of a bubble, so if you do that, you can grab your card again. And I had black on my finger, so don't do that. A little bit on there, but that's okay, because they're kind of like a rustic pumpkin anyways. I'm getting another little bubble. So notice how I only grab Mod Podge once for that. So I'm going to start in the middle and go down, and then start in the middle and go up, and then kind of out too. You might have to get a little bit underneath there. So if you wanted to skip this step, you definitely could. I just like how it gives it a little bit of a shine. All right. start in the middle. Just pressing that flat. My middle piece is wanting to bubble a little bit. I think it'll be okay though. That's better. So I just put a little bit on the edge there and just kind of went down. So that's gonna dry, and I think I'm gonna let that dry before I put this on top, and I'm gonna do the top of my big pumpkin. So I'll just kind of show you the difference. So this one doesn't have any shine at all, it's just that paper, and this one is gonna have a little bit of shine. So it's up to you. You really don't have to do that top coat part. It's just gonna protect the paper longer and help it to stick better. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this top one on. I like to start on the edge with bigger ones. All right, grabbing that again. You don't want to press too hard doing this or go too many times because you could start to peel the paper up. So I'm going to let that stay like that. Move it around a little bit in the light to make sure I covered every spot. You can see my bubbles there. Alright, that's okay there. I do have a little bubble in the middle, but I think it's gonna be fine. I don't want to go too much more because we'll start peeling that up. Alright, so then last one here, and on the edges, lightly. All right. That one must be easy. All right, so I'm gonna grab my other small pumpkin. And I'm gonna put this on the back here. So this acts just like a glue. Now we wanna act, again, pretty fast because this dries pretty fast. So I'm just gonna kind of, with my paintbrush, just dab along the edges here. Now, as you can see, since this is Mod Podge, it does dry clear. So I don't have to worry a whole lot about getting way too much, but you also don't want like a ton because you can kind of see the globs. So we don't want that. So just going around. Just kind of dabbing it on, really. I do have a paper towel here. I'm just gonna tear off a little piece. Maybe. This might be a little bit too small, but if I see any on the edges, I'm just gonna kind of go around before I put it on. I think it's not too bad, so then I'm just gonna put that on. And get it lined up and then hold it for a little bit here. If you have something heavy, you could set it on there, or little clip clamps, that works good too. But you do want it to make sure it is on there and not just part of it. So I'm gonna do the same thing with my big one. So make sure you're doing the right side here. It's gonna go right on like that. Alright, so same thing. I'm gonna line it up here. And just hold and press it down. And I'm gonna probably find something heavy. No, it doesn't take very long to dry. Alright guys, so the last part we are going to do is add our leaves on. So I'm gonna take my cord and just go through there, and I'm just gonna tie it on. So I'm gonna start by making a little loop, and I'm gonna figure out where I want it. So I kind of want mine yeah, I actually kind of like it on the top like that, so I think I'm gonna do that. So I'm just gonna do a little double knot. Just like that, and you can trim off the excess if you want to, or I mean you could bring it around to the front to add a little bit more detail. You could fray the edges some if you wanted to. I'm just pulling the string apart a little bit. Make sure you have it where you want it before you do that, but so there we go. So I'll do the same thing with my big one. And there you have it. Actually, you'll have 3. But I really appreciate you guys being a part of the Make It box for the last year. And I will definitely be updating you soon on what is to come. Until then, you guys have a great rest of your year and take care.